Hey YouTube, welcome back to Dwayne's World. So does your California trimmer catalyst need help getting from point A to point B? Well, I have one of California trimmer's newest accessories. You want to find out more about it? You better stay tuned. All right, so welcome back to Season 4, Episode 17. Here on Dwayne's World. I'm very excited about today's episode, but before I get into it, I just want to take a moment here and thank everybody for their support on my backlapping video. I think it's definitely going to serve the California Trimmer Catalyst community very well, and I hope you guys found that information useful. Some of you guys have already commented on me telling me that, and I really appreciate it because I do what I do for the community. Kind of goes back to one of the main reasons why I even do YouTube videos. I really want to make sure I help out everybody that's enthusiast. Whatever I learn, I'm very happy to be able to pass it along. All right, so before I get into the actual content of today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys really quickly about a good question that came from one of my viewers. And that question or comment was more so that they were surprised that you needed to do a reel to bed knife adjustment before doing a backlap. Meaning, a lot of people just start with the backlap and then they're ready to go. Well, if you know off the bat that your reel is not cutting the way it should, you can absolutely start with the backlap. However, the only thing I would caution you on is check the tightness of that reel first before you actually start. And if you're backlapping with that reel way too tight, even before any adjustment, you may want to back off on it to allow that compound to really be able to go to work. But in the case of my particular video, what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you guys how you actually go about adjusting the reel to bed knife plus do a backlap. And I probably should have made that distinction between the two. I wasn't doing this on video, for example, and I noticed that my reel wasn't cutting. I would do that reel to bed knife adjustment first and see if I can get it to cut paper. If I realized it took a lot of adjustment, meaning I had to adjust the reel a lot tighter than it should to get it to cut paper, to me, that tells me I need to do a backlap. I may need to back off on that clearance to allow that compound to be able to spin the reel backwards. Because what can happen is if it's over tightened, it's going to make it very difficult for your drill. You can burn it out and potentially do some damage to the bearings on your reel. So you don't want to do that. So again, I'm glad that the viewer brought that up because that is a very important point. Do not backlap, first of all, if your reel to bed knife tolerance is too tight, but you don't really have to do a reel to bed knife adjustment. This is generally when it's not cutting paper. I would start with that before I move into the backlap. I hope that makes sense. So with that, let's get into today's video. I'll show you guys the transport wheel kit and how you put it together and also how you adapt it to the 25-inch model. All right, guys, so I'm very excited to be able to show you guys one of California Trimmer's newest accessories. This is their transport wheel kit for your California Trimmer catalyst. Now, one of the things I absolutely love about this kit is whether you're a 20-inch or 25-inch catalyst owner, this one kit will work for either one of those models. All right, so what I'm going to do in this video is just do a quick assembly and show you guys how it converts from either a 20-inch setup or a 25-inch setup. So with that, let's go ahead and open up the box here and go ahead and take a look at the transport wheels. All right, so there's one wheel there. And the other wheel as well. Oh, and of course, got to have our caps. All right, guys, so before we go ahead and put this kit together, let's go ahead and just take a look at these wheels because I absolutely fell in love with them the first time I saw it. Now, kind of just picking them up, they're not too heavy, but I really love the spoke design. Also, the tires here look like they're made really well. It's not a pneumatic tire, so there's no air pressure or anything like that, but it definitely feels like they're made very well, and it should definitely stand the test of time. So what I went ahead and did is I went ahead and grabbed my tape measure, just want to show you guys how big these wheels are. Now, if I kind of just do a measurement here of the diameter, they are 12 inches long. Now, you may think a 12-inch wheel may seem a little excessive on the California Trimmer catalyst, but you got to remember, the California Trimmer needs the proper wheel clearance, and you would not be getting that unless you had a wheel that was approximately this size. All right, so before we go ahead and install the wheels, let's go ahead and take a look here at the bracketry, because I got to tell you, this is definitely a beefy piece of metal. I absolutely love the black powder coat finish. There obviously have our axles here that each of the wheels will connect to, one on that side there, and obviously one on the opposite side as well. The axles also look like they're made very well. The welding that they have on here is definitely very beefy, so I know this thing is never really going to fall apart. You notice they have these little welded on bars here. This is basically what's going to help secure it underneath the mower. There's these rubber bumpers here that obviously are going to protect the side of your mower. And again, I'll show you guys how we actually are going to install this on the California Trimmer catalyst. And what you'll also notice here is there are screws here along with nuts on the back that hold each side of the bracket together, but there is adjustability, and I'm going to show you guys how we adjust that. So that adjustability is basically going to allow you to be able to turn it from a 20-inch to a 25-inch setup. So with that, let's go ahead and install each of the wheels. The nut here on the end is a 17 millimeter, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my socket so we can remove that nut. All right, there we go. All right, just so there's no confusion, you really can't do this wrong. This washer is only going to allow you to be able to place it on the outside of the wheel here. It obviously won't fit over the axle. The wheel is what needs to go over that axle. So there we go. Now we'll go ahead and replace the washer and screw on the nut. All right, there we go. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and just put these caps on here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and grab my rubber mallet just in case here, as I got a feeling, yeah, they're not going to necessarily be that easy to just press in by hand. So I think it's going to need a little bit of help. This rubber mallet, I think, is going to make it that much easier for you to be able to get it in. Just slowly. I kind of notice here, it kind of works better if you kind of press in one side, and then you should be able to get in the other side here. There we go. You guys can see there. All good to go. Now, go ahead and just do the other side. All right, again, go ahead and just use a rubber mallet. Kind of work each of the sides in first. There we go. And now, start to get in one side of it. Makes it a little bit easier to get in the rest. All good to go. All right, so now let's go and take a look and see how we would adjust this from a 20-inch to a 25-inch version. All right, guys, so as you notice, I pointed this out earlier. These are basically two halves that come together with the little bracket underneath here, as you guys can see. Now, there is a third hole here that is kind of hard to see on video, but once we go ahead and back off on these bolts here, which I think are 13 millimeter, we'll be able to reposition these bolts so that way we can extend this out a little bit further. So with that, let me go ahead and start to loosen that 13 millimeter bolt. So in order to actually remove the bolts here, you're going to need a large Phillips screwdriver. Now, the one that comes with California Trimmer's Catalyst is a much larger head, and I think that's going to work out really well. As you guys can see there, fits well. If you use a standard Phillips head, it's probably going to be too small. One of the things I probably could have done is I could have probably made this adjustment to the bracket here before actually putting on the wheels. Guys, so to make this a little bit easier on myself, I'm going to go ahead and just turn this on its side again here. Go ahead and use my tool here and screw it by hand. There we go. That's off. Got a washer behind it and the bolt. All right, so you do want to kind of hold this here because this bracket's going to come loose here. We've now disassembled half of it. All right, so now we'll just get these last two, and we'll be able to make our adjustment to the bracket. Think that's out. Perfect. All right, guys, so just because of how tall this is, I went ahead and placed one of the sides down here on the ground. And now I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the first bolt. As you guys can see there, now I'm going to go ahead and just put on our washer and our nut. Here. There we go. All right, now last one. All right, there we have it. All right, so now we're set up for the 25-inch. What I want to do is I'm actually just going to do a measurement here. I want to show you guys how wide this thing is when it's all assembled here. As you guys can see there, it's 41 inches wide. All right, so there we have it. The California Trimmer transport wheel kit set up in front of my California Trimmer Catalyst. Now, one of the things I did want to point out, on the newer models of the wheel kit, what you're going to find is they're going to add a sticker right here, and it basically is going to show you which direction this locking pin needs to be when you go ahead and mount the motor. California Trimmer Catalyst to the transport wheel kits, it's important that you have the transport wheel kits behind the reel and pretty much right in front of the rear drum. That's pretty much where these locking tabs will be, is right before that rear roller. All right, so as you guys can see here on the screen, I just wanted to provide a picture to give you guys a little bit of reference here on where exactly these transport wheels will line up. All right, guys, so now let me kind of illustrate to you why I have my transport wheel kit and my mower actually facing in the direction that I chose to face it in versus maybe in this direction right here. Now, the way you're looking at my mower right now, I'm actually looking at my driveway sideways and not leading out to the street. However, if I go down my driveway here, keyword is down, meaning I have a slope that actually goes to the street. And that makes it a lot more difficult for you to be able to mount a transport wheel kit because it potentially could roll away. Now, another important fact I just want to bring up here is the transport kit is really designed for you to be able to go from point A to point B. And let me point out why that's so important. Now, an important fact about the transport wheel kit, it does not have a brake, nor do I believe it really should. The purpose of this transport kit is not necessarily intended for you to be able to leave the mower in a sitting position. It's really meant to take your mower from point A to point B. And once you're at point B, you should dismount. Whenever you are at point B, if it happens to be on a slope, it could potentially roll away, and you do not want that to happen. That would be one of the worst days you could experience if your mower goes out to the street and somehow makes contact with a vehicle. So, right, so this is why it's so important again, guys. Do not leave your California trimmer catalyst on its transport wheels sitting on the driveway, especially if you have a slope. If you don't have a slope, again, I'll leave it up to you. But again, the point of it is not necessarily for you to leave it parked there. The point of it is to get you from point A to point B. So with that, let me go and give you guys a different angle just so you guys can see exactly how it mounts up from a different vantage point. All right, so before we actually mount the California trimmer catalyst to the transport wheels, let me kind of show you something on the side of the mower here I like to use as a reference. So one of the things I like to do as reference is I use my California trimmer sticker here on the side to kind of line me up. The transport wheel kit is going to be somewhere in this area right here when it's mounted in, kind of between that sticker and that bolt right there is where you're going to find the front of the rear roller. I hope that helps you guys whenever you're mounting your transport wheel kit to your catalyst. And with that, let's go ahead and mount it up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just lean my mower back here, quite a bit actually, as I go ahead and move forward here. And again, I'm kind of just looking on the side here. I'm kind of looking at the sticker, and that is pretty close to where I want it. Now I'm going to go ahead and just drop it down here. There we go. And we should be locked in. Perfect, perfect. All right, guys, so one thing I kind of want to show you here, if you were to choose to leave your California trimmer catalyst in a resting position, you can go ahead and just lean it here on the front roller, and I can kind of let off of it, and it should be safe and secure. With one exception, it does not take a lot of effort to be able to move this mower back for you to be able to start using it, which is not necessarily a bad thing. However, if you plan on leaving this in a stored position, California Trimmer, when speaking to them, actually stated what you can do is you can actually change the height of cut on your mower to its lowest setting, and that's going to help this mower stay a little bit more stable facing forward. Now, there's two things I would probably recommend if you plan on leaving your mower in this resting position when it's not in use. The first thing is to go ahead and actually make sure your handlebars are in a stowed position. So we're going to go ahead and just open those up there and go ahead and lean our handlebars forward. The reason why I think this is really important that you have this set up this way is not only will it save space, but more importantly, it's so easy for somebody to be able to go ahead and just lean the mower back here. So without having those handlebars up, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But at the same time, as you guys can see here, I still could potentially lean this mower back. So the last recommendation I would have is make sure you do use some type of wheel chock or a 2x4 behind the rear roller, and that's going to prevent it from being able to lean back until you want to be able to move. All right, so now that I have it mounted on the transport wheel kit here, kind of just take a little test drive, if you will, and show you guys how it rolls very, very nice. Obviously those wheels have bearings in them. Just makes it that much easier for you to be able to get around. Does not take a lot of effort. The weight is fairly stable and centered when I'm using the transport wheel kit here. One of the things I am seeing here, which is nice, is it's easy to make turns. I know a lot of times you might have obstacles you're trying to go around, and that makes it a lot easier. The other thing I want to test here is going down an incline. Now, the only thing you want to do is you do want to kind of hold the mower back just so it doesn't get away from you. And if I'm kind of coming around here and going upwards on my driveway, not too bad, not too bad. I'm really liking that. Now, just by using this for a few minutes here, I got to tell you, if I did keep my mower stored pretty far from where I actually going to start mowing, this transport wheel kit, in my opinion, is a must. One of the things I also like, and let me kind of grab the camera here and give you guys a different view. All right, guys, so kind of looking at the back of the mower here, one of the things that I definitely like is obviously the transport wheels are going to lift the rear roller off the ground. This is vulcanized rubber and definitely does not wear as quickly as a typical rubber will. However, with the transport wheel kit, it's going to further minimize the wear on the rear roller here. Now, one of the things I'll tell you, anytime rubber is coming in contact with concrete, obviously it's going to put some wear on it. Because like in my situation, I have a lot of concrete I have to get through in order to get to my lawn. So this is definitely going to help when it comes to the wear and tear, and I absolutely love that. All right, guys, so quick safety tip here. When you're using these transport wheels, you want to make sure your motor is in the off position. Another tip is do not attempt to start your California trimmer catalyst while using the transport wheels. The last thing you want to do is hit that propulsion lever, do some damage, or even worse, hurt yourself. So make sure you're always thinking about safety first. All right, guys, so one quick tip I just wanted to mention when it comes to California trimmer or any reel mower or even any lawnmower for that matter is you want to make sure you go ahead and turn off the gas in between uses. Let me kind of explain to you guys why I recommend that. Now, there's a couple of theories on this, but one of the things that I'm trying to prevent is any type of hydrolock, regardless of whether or not that mower is leaning back or on level ground. And yes, you can get hydrolock when your mower is on level ground. And you may be wondering, well, how is that? Well, there's a lot of different variables that can actually cause it. Temperature, though, is a very important one. And I think for a lot of us that live in a hotter climate, this is something you need to be mindful of. For example, whenever I'm mowing, I generally add gas to my mower when I need it. But there's a lot of people that actually add gas to their mower at the end of the mow, filling up the tank so it's ready for your next mow. And I'm not saying that's a bad practice, but what I think can happen whenever you're doing that is potentially because of the expansion of that gas being at a full capacity, it can cause some gas to actually overflow from your carburetor, in essence, basically doing the same thing that would happen on a hydrolock situation. So that's why it's important, in my opinion, go ahead and turn off that gas so there's nowhere that gas can go. And you got to remember, whether you're dealing with the Briggs, whether you're dealing with the Honda motor, they are carbureted mowers, meaning they do not require a power supply in order for fuel to be able to be flowing, such as on a fuel injected motor. That's why it's important, in my opinion, go and turn off the fuel, take that extra step. It's one of those things, you'll never know whether or not you prevented it. But at the same time, I'd rather be safe than deal with the hydrolock situation. All right, guys, so I think that's going to about do it on today's episode. I really enjoy doing these kind of videos where I'm talking about little accessories that you could pick up for any one of your reel mowers, but especially for the California trimmer catalyst. Now, look forward to more future content like this because there's other accessories I want to be able to try out. And anytime I'm able to pick up any of those accessories, I'm very happy to be able to put them together for you guys so I can show you how well they work. Now, I do have one other accessory that I'll be adding to my California trimmer catalyst. Can you guess what it is? What do you think? It may surprise you guys, but if you want to take a guess, go ahead and comment down below. But while you're commenting, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Remember, the transport wheel kit is going to help you be excellent. Party on.